feel that they are somehow incomplete. It's very interesting. As Kierkegaard, the great Danish writer, once said, human beings are in the world, yet we get a nagging suspicion that we are not of the world. Right? So in other words, religion exists because there's something lacking in our lives, right? There's something lacking. Have you guys ever found it interesting? And again, I was talking yesterday about the big lie that gets propagated on you guys, that you are what you possess. That if you just have enough money, enough stuff, enough fun, that one day you'll wake up and be happy. And of course, everybody who's tried to follow that path knows that it is the path to ruin, knows that it is not fulfilling. But what's interesting is, the thought is that if you have everything in your life that you want, that you'll never see God. You'll never ask questions about the meaning of life if you're so busy enjoying your life. Does that make sense? And that's what his mother wanted him to prevent from doing. I mean, don't ask questions. Don't wonder what it's all about. Don't wonder how you got here. Don't wonder about the afterlife. Don't wonder if you're supposed to do more than just have fun. Because once you do that, you're going to start thinking about religion and God, and you're going to be looking for things, and I don't want you to do that. Okay? To me, a reason why I love teaching this is I think this is a gigantic metaphor for the classroom and for teachers. I think your culture is essentially the same thing as Gautama's mother. Your culture wants to keep you fat and entertained. Because if you're fat, I don't mean literally fat, it's just if you're just completely entertained and having fun, then you're not asking questions, right? I mean, you are literally entertaining yourself to death. I mean, think for just a moment about, and I swear there's a neuroses here, think about your neurotic need to be in contact all the time. What do you think texting is about? Right? What do you think it's about? I constantly have to be in contact with somebody else. In other words, God forbid I'm actually by myself and I'm right here. Right? I mean, texting, email, the internet, it's all about trying to be somewhere else all the time, to be connected to something. Right? I mean, the problem with your generation, I think, is you guys don't know how to think for yourselves. You don't know how to be by yourselves. Because you're so interconnected to everything else in the world. Right? And so if you have silence, if you're by yourself, if you're not having fun, you start to ask questions. Right? And that's why many of you don't ask questions, is because you don't need to. There's no reason to. You have this delicious existence of fun, so why worry about it? Right? Whereas what happens is, at some point along the way, you figure out, as Buddha does, or as Gautama does, that it's not enough. Because here's what happens. One day, he leaves the palace and sees three things. Just as someday, you guys will leave your childhood and begin to ask some questions, hopefully. Okay, he sees three things. First, he sees an old man, which shocks him because he doesn't think that people actually get old. He just thinks life is eternally like this. And then he sees, you do know that this is kind of like life. Okay. Then he sees a sick man. That shocks him because he thinks, wow, there's like an element of suffering. There's an element of angst in life. And then finally he sees a deformed woman. He sees... you guys are like... Then he sees a dead man, right? This is a progression. An old man, a sick man, and then a dead man. This leads him to a huge realization. And that realization, and I'll write on the board here, as I said a moment ago, that realization is that life is full of suffering. That's what it is. Life is largely full of suffering, okay, which he didn't know before. And so here's what happens. He goes on an odyssey, on a journey, on a soul journey, if you will. He tries to find a place. He goes looking, and he goes on a journey to find a place without what? Yeah, very good. He goes on a journey to find a place without suffering. All right? And this is what his journey is about. This is what he's looking for. right? Because he says, you know what? I didn't know that life contains these elements to them. I need to escape it, okay? I need to escape it. I don't want to see people getting old, getting sick, dying. There's got to be a place where this doesn't happen. So he goes on this journey, and he looks and he looks and he looks, and we all know what's going to happen. Is he going to find it in this world? No, because he begins to learn. I mean, as Aristotle once said, true wisdom consists in knowing the nature of life and the nature of the world. Right? As Aristotle once said as well, we don't just want to live, we want to live well. Right? The purpose of life is not merely to live, but to live well. Some of my favorite quotes, by the way. Okay? From Aristotle. And so, of course, he finds that there is no such place. And so he begins thinking about the problem of pain, the problem of suffering in this world, and how to avoid it. So he begins to meditate. And he meditates under a tree. For 48 days. He meditates under a tree, trying to figure out how can we avoid suffering in this life. Okay? How can we avoid the sorrow and the trauma? Okay?